The Phoenix Suns are going to have a chance to reach the playoffs in a surprising season, but unfortunately, they're going to have to go through legends to get there. We're going to break down all three teams the Suns could play in the play-in, and we're going to do it on the other side of this. Psychos and sickos unite for a B-Legendary edition of the PHNX Suns Show. Of course, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why winning is everything over at Bet365. I'm Eric. We've got Gil, Espo, Steven, and the Freckled Mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen as we're here for another 3 p.m. show because, as Boom Shakalaka says in the chat, this schedule is so wonky, but we're glad to have you all in here today. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.
Congratulations, Kara, for checking your watch on time today.
Woo! Let's go, Kara.
Said he said.
She's been better lately, though.
She has been getting better.
Way better.
It starts scheduling those alarms. And said he said, good to have you in here as well. And Papa Rubio, always good to see you, as well as Anime and Hoops. Glad to have each and every one of you here. Hit that like button. Let's get this going.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the Suns. So obviously we're going to talk about the Clippers, the Trailblazers, and the Warriors as we get closer to the end of the season. We are going to be diving into those teams a lot. Like a lot. So this will be just the dipping the toe in the pool of our play-in coverage. But before we get there, we are going to talk a little bit about some injuries and maybe a lack of updates. Steven, no practice today for the Suns, so didn't get a chat with anybody, didn't get to see anybody out there working. But we are getting closer and closer to a Dillon Brooks return. Can you kind of sense in the locker room that they're itching to get a guy like Dillon back?
Not Dillon in specific, obviously, yes, but they just want to be healthy or significantly close. Bro, you have an entire 6-man rotation of guys that have just been out.
I bet they could beat the Kings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that.
I bet they could beat the Pacers.
I'm not going to hedge against that, especially in both of those teams' present states. But, yeah, I think just in general, they just want bodies back, especially the bodies at that particular position for what their rotation is. And it demands on those guys to do what they do best in the ways that they do it. So start with Dillon in terms of all of those guys that are on that list of people that just haven't been available. Yeah, I mean, that's their spiritual leader in more ways than one. He raises the compete level of everybody. He gives them a different type of approach in terms of edge. And I think the other thing is the shot making and being able to do it on the different accords in which he's able to do it. It's sorely missed in multiple ways. And needless to say, if he's able to come back sooner than later, that will help them immediately.
Yeah, there was video of him, I believe it was on his own Instagram earlier today or late yesterday, of him working on shots with it wasn't the cast, it wasn't like a brace, it was just something kind of protecting that hand, working on those turnaround shots and everything. So it appears that he's inching closer and closer to coming back, and we know that he can be the heart and the hustle of this team at times, so it certainly will not hurt to have him back. And like you mentioned, Haywood Highsmith, another guy that would be nice to have back. I mean, there's just a lot of guys that there's just lingering injuries that you need to figure out.
And something we think about, like the issues that this team has had, and this is what you and I talked about, Eric. We did a video about Dillon Brooks specifically and his ability to operate in the mid-range and his bucket-getting ability, oftentimes creating something out of nothing to the point where we sometimes think it's not even there. And he sees things that, honestly, he's a one-of-one and he can do, and with the shot profile that he has and the skills that he has operating in the isolation a lot of times, I think that will solve a lot of issues that we've seen in fourth quarter execution down the stretch. And on the flip side of not allowing other teams to come back in the game, just the grit and will that he plays with, I think that is something where, look, this team has scored 6 straight. This ends now. Like that mentality that you can only do but so much from the sideline. I think his leadership ability by example and vocally is something that was going to be very evident once he's back on the court.
Let's be honest here. We've known that Dillon Brooks is going to be coming back. Now, whether it's, somehow he has an accelerated timeline, he comes back this week, which seems unlikely with just one game against the Jazz on Saturday, but hopefully sometime next week is when you're going to be getting Dillon Brooks back. There's another big name, another starter, right?
I had a question for everybody.
Go ahead.
On the Dillon front. So when you're looking at what the Suns have been with and without him, and you assess what they've been, especially in this 2-week stretch, is his presence going to be felt more, or are you looking for his dynamic to hit them more offensively or defensively?
Defensively, I think people completely underrated what he was able to do defensively. Is he a perfect
blow by rate?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, is he a perfect? Is he a perfect
blow by
defender?
rate?
No, no. But he's a guy that you can trust.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and he's got enough size to compete. I feel like that defensive side is where you miss him.
I agree. I think both sides, as much of a cop out as that sounds like, but I think the reality of it is it's going to be more evident offensively because it's louder and the buckets are louder and they're coming big moments. But I think that defensively the impact is going to be greater. And a lot of the things that a lot of people aren't necessarily noticing or able to put a finger on, it's because Dillon Brooks is not around, and the personnel aspect playing up the strength that you mentioned, Espo, the size that he has and brings to the front court. And honestly, the lineups and the rotations, you can get more flexibility and they can be different as well with that. So very excited for that because that is the calling card. That is the identity of this team.
It's got to be the offense because the defense just the blow by rate. And
there you go. It's been too long, Eric.
It's just no. But I'm looking forward to the fourth quarters the most and the clutch time moments on both sides of the ball.
Both sides, okay.
Right, because it's like, okay, you got another guy that can go create a shot. He's not afraid to take a shot, and he's been hitting over 50% of his big shots, especially in the mid-range. But then defensively, there's a little edge that you've got to have that I feel like the Suns haven't tapped into early enough, but other teams have tapped into, where it's like, hey, it's crunch time, and now all of a sudden it's like the Celtics defensively are just, on a string, and you can't get rid of them. I think Dillon's defense is going to be the type of thing where it's like, all right, he's going to take care of his own. We're going to see how he's operating with 5-6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Rising tide lifts all boats, and then, if we need a big shot, he's not afraid to take it, and sometimes he'll make it too.
How much has the funneling on defense changed with Mark not out there? Because that seems like one of the bigger things is you got to change schematically when you can't just force guys back.
Oh, that matters a lot because with Mark, you can funnel a little bit more. With Oso, he's usually, not even usually, he's switching at a rate that's like top 6, top 7 in the league for guys that have played as many minutes as he does. So if you're switching, guess what? That means you're on an island in multiple capacities, one-on-one wise. So that's where blow-by rate can be more accurately assessed if you're playing a switching scheme and you have to just guard your yard. Whereas if you're playing with Mark, you're funneling to him in multiple capacities. So another opportunity just to say, if you're using those stats, please use the context wisely with that because you can swing opinions and public perception the complete wrong direction. Dillon Brooks has probably been the best defender on the Suns this season for the matchups he's been tasked with guarding on volume, from Wembanyama to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and everywhere in between. And then also having the load that he has to take on offensively for shot making in a primary sense when Devin was out in terms of lineups because Jalen wasn't around. And then when Devin was in, doing it on the second side. That's a lot. I would say probably the shot making specifically from the mid-range is what's going to be looked forward to most from me, just because teams are switching more. You get to playoff basketball, the game slows down. You play later in the clock. You have to have a certain level of shot making to survive in the Western Conference. 47 and almost 48% on twos this season, on north of 6 attempts on average a game. That's something that can help this team a lot to diversify the shot profile so that it's not just three-pointers and layups that they're looking at right now.
Well, let's talk about Mark Williams a little bit here before we dive into the play-in. We didn't get to this in our last pregame and postgame, but Jordan Ott was asked just about his status and had this exchange with Dwayne Rankin.
Doing some one-on-one, like individual work. Has he gotten to any point where it's a 5-on-5 with him?
No, not yet.
And just, do you need to see that before he gets on the floor to play or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
So no 5-on-5 yet. Now, maybe that changes today where we don't really know that there's no open practice or open media section.
Yesterday and today.
Hopefully he has, but that is something that Jordan said he has to see. I know that we've kind of started the conversation here of what if the Suns don't get Mark Williams back? How worried are you about a Mark Williams-less Suns?
very, very worried about Mark Williams' Suns. And, I think not that we began to take him for granted, because we have seen Mark Williams at his best and we've seen Mark Williams at his not best. And he struggled a little bit, and who knows how much of that had to do with discomfort he was feeling and playing more games than he's ever played in one season, not in just his NBA career, in his basketball career, in his life. And that takes a toll. But now seeing these games and the way this team has lost without him, there have been moments here and there. There have been stretches here and there. There have been games where it's like, man, sure would be nice to have Mark Williams doing the things that he's done this year. So, the one thing that gives me a little, not comfort is too strong of a word, but this team is learning how to operate without him. Now, are they operating optimally without him? Not necessarily, but I think that in the back of your mind, when you think somebody's going to be back for you, you can kind of rest on that a little bit. But I do think this team's fight or flight would kick in at some point if they look, oh, he's not coming back. But until then, I think that obviously your talent, have your best talented players. He has been the best guy at the 5 for this team, so you got to have him back.
I think I'm just as worried with him coming back too, because with a foot, it's not like he's been doing conditioning stuff. Sure. Like you're basically stay off it. You're in a boot for most of the time. I know he's done some things, but you're not in full sprints. You're not doing that. So does he have enough time to get his wind back? Does he have enough time to kind of get comfortable? Because I'm guessing there's a trust factor with it too.
Of course.
Because that's a big deal. So can he get comfortable enough to be effective, especially with like what we're talking about, a play-in? That's one game. It's are you mentally, are you physically ready to actually take that on with all the pressure and the workload you're going to have to put in that kind of situation?
Yeah, some of the best value that Mark has brought the Suns defensively is his ability to guard in space. So naturally, you get into lineups with them, go back to the opening night against the Kings, drop coverage, getting dinged, move them up to the level, make them switch. They win that second half enough to ultimately win the game and undo the bad of the first half. If he's comfortable enough to push off of that foot to go laterally and stay in front of guys without fouling, that's the separator for him this season. If he's not able to do that to the extent that they will need him to do come play in or playoff time, that hurts your defense, and then it naturally hurts his biggest advantage, which is his literal foot speed, just getting out in transition. And to your point, it usually takes like 7 to 10 games when you come back from having not played games to trying to ramp up to game shape and game rhythm. You can do a little bit beforehand, but you can't get that full on without being in the fire. So,
and we're right there.
That's a little worrisome. But again, regardless of all of those things, if he's healthy enough to play, you're in a better spot than you are without him at all.
Were you saying that? And I'm curious what you guys think, knowing what the front court rotation or center rotation is at this time and the time that he's missed. No, let's just assume that he can't make it any worse, and Mark is going to be healthy and be on the floor. Is it 60%, 70%, 80% of Mark? What of that are you comfortable with on the court for this Suns team that makes them better? Because at a certain point, if he's not at full strength, now he's hurting the team. But is it 3/4 of Mark is enough to make this team better? Is it just 50% of Mark that makes this team better? I don't know the way we assess it based on what we've seen from him this year.
I mean, I think his presence definitely will make them better, even if he's like 60-ish%. I think if you're at 50, you're not playing if you're at 50%, right? Yeah. So let's say like if your barrier play is like 75 to 80%, which I feel like that's what it is. He makes him better just because there's nobody else on the team that is that size besides Malawach, and when you get into these crunch time minutes, there's clearly not enough trust with Kaman for him to play. Late game deterrent, free throw hitter as well. Like he has a lot of these things that Oso kind of doesn't have, but we've seen even 100% Mark Williams only play 17 minutes in a game, right? So I think he's out there to see how he's doing, to see how he's running, because a big thing for him was, okay, the energy that he brings, right? He's always sprinting down the court. If he's not giving you those things, I think he has a more limited role, and maybe he doesn't start. Like maybe he does come off the bench like he did at the beginning of the season when he was returning from his injury management. So I think if he's able to play, even if he's not 100%, he does give you another look, but it is a big difference between we're going to be starting you and playing you close to 30 minutes per game, which is about your ceiling, versus you're going to be a rotational center playing like 15 to 20.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to put him out there and get a feel for if he's hurting you at all. Even at 80%, I think it's going to be matchup dependent and what. Because some of this, he may physically be 80, 90%, but if mentally he's not there, that'll impact as well.
Well, we know that no matter what, if Mark Williams is playing or not, the Suns will, like 99% sure, be in the play-in, barring some miracle here over the last 9 games. So we figured we'd take a look at the other 3 teams that are pretty much guaranteed to be in the play-in as well. Just a brief look at them. We'll dive more in depth as we get closer, but let's start with the team that everybody seems to be kind of afraid of, the Los Angeles Clippers, and we'll do it on the other side of our first break. I'm not scared of Circle K. In fact, I love Circle K because, man, gas prices suck. I mean, let's just be honest here. They are bad. But Circle K makes your life a lot better because they're giving you a lot of money off. The other day, I rolled up because I'm a member of the Inner Circle, and I typed in my phone number as I do. And usually I save off 5 cents per gallon, which adds up nowadays. But randomly, they're like, hey, here's 20 cents off per gallon. Okay, I'll take that. How about an Inner Circle Fuel Day that happens about once a month? Boom, 40 cents off per gallon. Every single cent matters, and Circle K makes it easy to save money with the Inner Circle. You can join the Inner Circle for free. All you have to do is download the Circle K app, put in your phone number, put in your email, and boom, instantly saving on gas, but also on Polar Pops, on Frosters, on meal deals, on Monster Energy drinks, on everything that you could possibly get from a grocery store. You're saving, of course, with the Inner Circle and Circle K. So join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for full details.
Both of you guys are in the market for cars, correct? The Arizona Lottery might be able to get you a little extra scratch, so you can maybe go an extra level up, right?
Yeah.
A lot of bit of scratch.
There you go.
They can help you
Yeah.
get. Yeah, we know you have nice taste when it comes to cars. And the Arizona Lottery has triple games and triple the fun, so maybe they can triple your car size or niceness if you want. And now you can play the 3 exciting triple theme games from the Arizona Lottery. Play triple red sevens. I played that one and hit. Not enough for a car, but a nice amount. And triple cash payout scratchers for the chance to win top prizes of up to $100,000. So why wouldn't you do that? And Triple Red 7 Fast Play has a progressive jackpot starting at $30,000, and it builds up from there. I won on that one too. So you're going to want to try it. You can go over to our friends at Circle K. You can get one of the scratchers today, and then when you hit, just give me a little bit of it as a thank you. Find all 3 tickets at a retailer near you with our friends at Arizona Lottery.
Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Espo, you hit on the scratcher. I guess I know why we got a new hoop out there then.
Oh no, that was from the deep pockets of my wife. Didn't realize it came out of the checking. So.
Well, look, maybe everybody here can open up their checking account a little bit, or if you're a diehard, you get 20% off our new Diamondbacks opening day merchandise. Look at that. Baseball is back. Of course, Derek, Damon, and Danny, I'm going to have you covered on PHNX Diamondbacks. But guess what? We've got new merch, and I got my eyes on the bottom right corner, baby. Randy Johnson annihilating a bird, R.I.P. In spring training. What an incredible shirt. You can get that at gophnx.com. We have
25 years ago, 2 days ago.
Wow. March 24th is an interesting day in Arizona sports history, as we covered. New hoodies, 2 new hats, 3 new t-shirts, and current diehards can get 20% off anything in the collection. And when you become a diehard, you can get a free shirt as well. But let's talk basketball, as much as we love that the baseball season is back for the PHNX Diamondbacks crew. And let's talk about the play-in, because we know, guys, like, come on, let's be honest here. We know the Suns are going to likely be in the 7th seed. So let's talk about who they might be facing. First, we'll just take a look at what the play-in kind of layout is and what it looks like as a projection right now. So currently, the Suns are in the 7th seed. The Clippers are in the 8th seed. Those two would face off against each other in a home game for the Phoenix Suns. The winner of that game currently would play the Spurs in the 2 seed. Now, we'll talk tomorrow about how there could be some movement in those top 3 seeds and about who the Suns might want to face, but that's for tomorrow, right? In the 9 and the 10, you have the Trailblazers hosting the Warriors, who are currently the 10th seed, and the winner of that game will go on to face the loser of Suns Clippers. So if the Suns win, they play the Spurs. If they lose, they'll go to play the winner of Trailblazers Warriors, and the winner of that game, which would be a home game for the Suns, they have home court advantage in the play-in as the 7th seed, will go on to face OKC. So let's talk about the team the Suns will likely face, but not guaranteed to face, in the first round of the play-in, and let's talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, the Heckle and Jive of the 2025-2026 NBA season, the LA Clippers, well, their overall record is nothing to really be afraid of, 37-36. But when you take into account how many games they started below 500, they've been on an impressive run since the month of December. Their record against the Suns is 2-2. But Steven, we have not faced the new look Los Angeles Clippers after trading James Harden. What have you seen from them after the trades they made at the deadline and kind of rearranging how their team looks?
Yeah, Darius Garland is a good basketball player. For anybody that forgot that, for anybody that maybe didn't know that, or anybody that had doubts, that guy can hoop. And he can especially put the ball in the basket. He has someone to defer to, but it's not to the same extent as what it was with Donovan Mitchell. And that's no slight or disrespect to Don. Him and Kawhi Leonard are just two very different players. Obviously, even more so, the Clippers are a very different team construct than what the Cavaliers were. The Cavs had different ways they could kind of cover for him defensively that the Clippers can do a little bit more, especially from a perimeter standpoint with the guys that they have that can guard at the point of attack and the vets that they have in that room. So it's a different approach for Darius in particular, and he's had some fun. Past him, we talked about Benedict Mathurin prior to us hopping on the mics today. Pretty good basketball player when you give him one goal. You give him runway to just go put the ball in a bucket, and he's doing that in droves, literally and figuratively for them right now. So definitely a different Clippers team than what the Suns have seen in their season series. Doesn't mean there's nothing that you can't take away from the season series and assessing what it might look like in a one-off type of play-in scenario.
Yeah, Kara said we can't let a barely 500 team beat us. Well, they are the first team in NBA history to move above 500 after falling at least 15 games below 500 earlier in the season. So this is not the team that was really bad. This team has been extremely good. They're 8-3 since Garland has started playing for them, and Mathurin leads all players in total points off the bench. So this is a team that got more dangerous with their moves that they made at the deadline, and they scare me because of their size, because of that, and the fact that they are a team that hits their free throws effectively. They lead the NBA in free throw percentage, which we know that is an Achilles heel for the Phoenix Suns. So not only do they have a size advantage in a lot of ways, they also have a free throw advantage, which is one of those differentiators that when you get into a play-in or playoff game and things become a half-court game, that can make all the difference.
After their win last night, they're 31-15 since falling 15 games under 500 earlier in the season. That's pretty good.
For two different teams.
That's two different teams. And to your point, too, they've reinvented themselves during that span as well. And obviously, talk about Darius Garland, talk about Benedict Mathurin. Isaiah Jackson's another guy who they brought in who's made his impact felt for them. And they're rebuilding on the fly. They've gotten not significantly younger, but they added a lot of youth in that moment because the joke about them coming into the year was how old this team was. The unction. It was the unction part one and part two is in Northern California. But thinking about this team and those guys they have, and thinking about a guy like Benedict Mathurin, right? Like he's a guy who's played in the finals before. Like Kawhi Leonard is the last person. He's the one constant, really, he and Brook Lopez, who's now taking on a larger role with Zubac's being gone. But that's not the type of guys you want to see in a Game 7 situation.
Well, and okay, yes, I agree with you, and you don't want to see them in a one-off situation, but it's mainly because the guy that we have not really talked about that much, and that's
Ty Lue.
Ty Lue. Well, Ty Lue was a great playoff
That's
coach.
the name I'm going at.
But it's Kawhi Leonard, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Kawhi Leonard, if he's playing, Steven, if he's playing, he could play like a top 5, top 3 basketball player in the world if he's completely
of course.
on both sides of the ball, right? And so
that's why I push back, because Kawhi is not the same defender that he was.
He's not the same, but in a one-off playoff scenario, you don't want to be having Kawhi guard you in an ISO situation.
I mean, Devin Booker would love to see Kawhi. Respectfully, at this present stage,
fair enough.
He's not guarding one-on-one the way that he was even just 2 years ago. That's why I'm saying, like, yes, he can score, but Devin can go band for anybody, especially in your season's life is potentially on the line, whether you win or lose this game, and it's on your home court on top of that. Like, I respect Kawhi as much as anybody, and his offense, At one point, I
What's
felt
the
like,
blow-by rate for Kawhi?
yeah, you don't want to know. For the people that want to apply it to Dillon Brooks, you don't want to know what Kawhi's is. But no, just not to take away from Kawhi's impact, but I just feel like he can be poked at a little bit more than he had been in years past. And I think that helps the Suns for a team that wants to get paint touches.
I think the tough part with Kawhi, even if let's say like, he's not in his prime, right? He's 30.
Offensively,
He's 34 years old right now, but he is a notorious playoff riser, Espo. He's somebody that has not only won multiple championships, multiple Finals MVP, but he's done it with different franchises in different conferences. And look, even though he hasn't in different countries, and even though he hasn't really seen a ton of playoff success on the Clippers, he's seen some, and he's just one of those guys that when you're going into this play-in situation, in a one-game scenario, you don't want to look at the guys like Kawhi or like Steph that we're going to look at later today, where it's like, you've been there and you've done that, right? So that is terrifying. Despite everything else we talk about the Clippers, that's the most terrifying thing to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in totality, they're extremely tough. But Kawhi's the first guy ever in NBA history in his 14th season or later to have a career high in points. He's averaging a career high 28.3 points a game this year for sixth best in the league. So offensively, whether he's lost a step or not on the defensive end, he's taken it to a new level, which is scary. And that is the kind of guy that can swing an entire, I mean, especially an entire series, but one game, like you get one Kawhi heater, it's over. And so this team scares me a lot. They're kind of, the Suns have struggled in the last few months. Well, the Clippers have peaked and they've gotten healthy and they've been able to make these moves to change things. They scare me in a one-game situation.
The thing that I think back, as we talked about with health, and that's why it's paramount for the Suns, one, because you just want to be whole at the most important time of the year. But you talk about Kawhi Leonard, Darius Garland, Benedict Mathurin, we talked about the same thing with all of them, their ability to fill it up. Okay, well, do you have Dillon Brooks available? Do you have Haywood Highsmith available? Do you have Rasheer Fleming in a spot where you can trust him for a few minutes here and there? Because you do have a lot of different answers defensively to put on these guys, to blanket on these guys. A guy like Kawhi Leonard, you're not going to just shut him down.
No.
He might have an off night, but you're not going to shut him down. How difficult can you make life for him? How uncomfortable can you make life for him? And the cool thing is, I mentioned all these different wings and perimeter defenders that this team has. Got to mention Jordan Goodwin as well. Okay, this answer's not working. We're going to switch to that one. And we're going to keep giving you different looks, one, to kind of keep you on your toes, but also until we find out exactly what we want to do defensively against you. So it's scary. Kawhi Leonard is a guy who sometimes it might not matter. He's going for 40, 45. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him do it in Game 7s before. But at least the Suns can say, we threw every single thing that we have at him. And that's why it's so important to have everything at your disposal.
Let's talk weaknesses a little bit because, look, they're a good team, and they're a much better team than what their record shows, but they're not an impervious team. They just lost back-to-back games to the Pelicans.
Bring to the conversation before we go to weaknesses. Strengths, Ty Lue, game plan specific for certain guys that he spent time with Team USA with. Devin Booker this season, 3 games, all played against the Clippers. Now, the Suns are 2-1 in those games, but he's only averaging 21 points. Doing that on 45% from the field, but 28.6% from 3. He's averaging 3.7 turnovers is the number that stood out most to me. They have a game plan and they have a personnel to execute to the game plan that's a little different than other teams. Now, you take Zubac out of that, yes, but that's not the direct matchup for him. Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn in particular, those two names. You can throw a little bit of Nick Batum in there who has Condor-type wingspan. Those guys have been there through the fire against multiple different type of perimeter scorers. They have a certain game plan that they can execute in ways that most teams can't. And in a one-game situation, I feel like that's something that makes me hesitate some. The Suns will have their work cut out for them, but to bridge the gap into the weaknesses part for the Clippers, no Zubac. They have naturally pushed Brook Lopez to the starting unit. So you take your reserve big, who once was a strength for your reserves, is now your go-to guy in terms of starting. Yannick Niederhauser came on as a guy in place of Zubac once he left the team. Thank you. He's now out of the equation because he's out the rest of the season. I think he has a foot injury. Don't quote me on that. It's foot injury. Yeah. So Isaiah Jackson's okay. Is he going to give you what you need in the reserve unit, which for the Suns, their reserve bigs haven't always been their strength. So that's something that might be able to neutralize things a little bit more if you're looking at those teams going against each other in a playing situation.
That's where getting Mark back and him being
100%.
able to be
Yep.
athletic would be huge because that's an advantage going against
Mhm.
Brook Lopez, right? So that's the fear there is if you don't get Mark back, can Oso find those advantages? Can Kaman take advantage of second string? Because if you're looking at Mark taking on Brook and then Oso being the guy taking on second string bigs, I feel a lot better about that against the Clippers. But we'll have to see. Their weakness is that they're fairly new playing together too, right? And you've got guys that are trying to mesh still, and they've won games, but in a one game situation, that is different. There's just an inherent pressure to it, and if you're not overly familiar with the guys you're playing with, that can lead to mistakes, and then the Suns would have to take advantage of those mistakes.
But that's something the Suns can run into too.
Yes,
because of
exactly.
injury. So
Yes.
that's something that both teams are going up against.
I think about that when you talk back to kind of the big man situation. It's a weakness that they can't necessarily take advantage of an issue that we've been outlining and trying to talk about for so long, where last time they were here, it was Zubats that dominated. Well, now with Niederhauser being out, they have one guy over 7 feet tall, which is Brook Lopez, and then it's John Collins, who is 6'9", who can play some 5, but he's trying to find his way and get back in line. He's been dealing with a bunch of different injuries. And then Isaiah Jackson, I mentioned him earlier, he's a 6'8" center. So as far as that goes, that size, and I do think about some of the weaknesses for as good of a basketball player and as good of a scorer and distributor Darius Garland is, some of his warts that he's shown in the playoffs in the past. Now, it's going to be a little bit different because I think a big detractor for that backcourt in Cleveland was their lack of size. But how much can they overcompensate for him? Because he's going to get put in some situations on the other end of the floor when he has to guard somebody. And we know what the Suns can do with their perimeter scorers. So can you make them uncomfortable? Can you put them in disadvantageous situations? And I think that there are some buttons you can press that we've seen in the past.
Attack Darius Garland.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen Darius Garland not have great playoff games, also not be very available in his career as well, just over the last couple of years. And so there's always a chance with, some of the injuries that they're going through now and what you're able to do that maybe their full roster isn't available, even what they're working with now. But I mean, you've got Jalen Green and Devin Booker, right? And hopefully you've got Grayson Allen back and Kong. Like Darius Garland has to guard somebody. Right. And they have great wing defenders. Kawhi, Derrick Jones Jr., obviously. Chris Dunn is a great POA defender. But you have so many offensive options if you get back to relative health in your guard rotation. Like, who is Darius Garland going to guard? And in these single game scenarios, like having a pigeon and having somebody that you could really point out is not something that I think the Suns have. Right. Like even Colin Gillespie, who's smaller, like you can attack him, but he's a better defender than Darius Garland. Right, you can try to attack Book. I think he's had an actually really solid defensive season. I think Jalen Green has been very underrated in his defense. And so that is kind of to me where what can the Clippers poke at defensively? I think the Suns are just more shored up and a little bit better on that side of the ball, which hopefully will translate into like, okay, crunch time, Darius Garland's on the court, go for the switch and just attack him.
I mean, the Clippers can always go at their bigs. For as good as the Suns' bigs have been defensively, a lot of times when they get dinged, if it's not the point of attack directly from getting past someone on the perimeter, it's one of the bigs being out in space. Oso's been one of the best, most impactful defenders, but if he happens to lose leverage on the perimeter, and that's your big that's on the court, who's at the rim to help him? That's where someone like Darius Garland can poke at things because for as good a switch defender as Oso is, Darius Garland thrives in isolation. And if you're conceding a 5 to him, it's his strength versus your strength. Who's going to win more of those matchups? Is Oso fouling? Is he getting baited into fouls, which is a very underrated but crafty dynamic of Darius Garland? You get allured with his foot speed, and then he throws up the little hook like James Harden or sometimes Donovan Mitchell's done. But I will say no one knows Darius Garland better than Jordan Knott. And that's something that comes into dynamic and play for game planning for somebody, trying different things over the course of it, but also taking advantage of their weaknesses and not really having to do much studying because you've spent 2 to 3 seasons with this guy and you've been through the playoff fire with him too. So I think that's something that will help the Suns a lot in that one-off type of situation. But numbers-wise, against the Clippers, the Suns only have a 112 offensive rating and have a 119.3 defensive rating. So those numbers are not the prettiest at all. You got to go and figure out what those things were that weren't working in process for you and shore them up.
Final thoughts on the Clippers before we move on to the team half a game back from them, the 9th seed.
Suns will beat the Clippers, but it's not going to be easy at all.
You got the script?
Nah, no script. No script.
I think that's an important note kind of here is that the Suns will, I believe, be favored. I mean, depending on relative health in every single one of the playing games that they play, whether it's 1 or whether it's 2, they will be favored and they're at home. That's a big
betting
advantage.
odds or just in like what's your premise?
Like betting odds, yeah.
We'll see. Because if 30 and Porzingis and all of them are healthy and Kawhi is healthy, I don't know if they give the Suns the eyes on that.
Well, we'll see.
That's not my land to speak language-wise, though, so I concede that to
you know me.
I think
I'll speak the betting
all this
language.
red over here. I concede that to y'all.
I think the home court will shift that
Yeah,
if it's
sure.
if it's
For
as
sure.
close as we think it'll be if there's health. So
Yeah.
So half a game back behind the Clippers is the Trailblazers, right? And it's kind of lost in all these, we're talking about legends and Kawhi and Steph. Is a Trailblazers team that is pretty dangerous in their own right and has given the Suns some fits. So let's talk about them on the other side of our second break. Look, the husband and wife law team are here for you in the hardest times of your life. Whether you find yourself suffering a serious injury or your family's dealing with a wrongful death, Mark and Alexis Breyer lead a team that's experienced and specialized, ready to go to trial for you. I'm talking hundreds of years of combined trial experience of the husband and wife law team with multiple certified specialists in personal injury and wrongful death. And they don't just put their money where their mouth is, they guarantee things. Like you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. You will receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they reduce their attorney's fee to do so. And they guarantee that you may speak with a lawyer as often as you choose about anything that you would like to discuss. And they'll always be upfront and honest with you about all the strengths of your case, but also the weaknesses so that you can make the most informed decision. So make the most informed decision first. If you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at the link in our show notes and tell them that PHNX sent you.
Gil, did I overhear you saying you just realized you have a smart thermostat?
Did he overhear me say that?
Oh, well, congratulations first.
There's a lot of jokes there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll leave the jokes alone. That's your area on this show.
I
not
know
mine.
you're not talking.
But you got to get budget billing though with our friends at APS because it pairs nice with the smart thermostat and it makes sure that you kind of like even out your bills throughout the year. Like it's fantastic, and I love the way they do it because we all have times where we need to stick to a budget. Maybe you're saving up for that car, like we talked about. Or you need monthly bills that are predictable. When you do this with the APS, it evens out your bills throughout the year. Every month, you're going to know what you're going to pay, and it helps immensely when you're looking at that. And that gives you a more predictable payment, helping you plan and save. And I know that has helped me out immensely. I think it'll help out everybody, you at home included. So if you want to learn more about budget billing and other options for managing your bills, go to aps.com/let's talk. That's aps.com/let's talk.
A little trivia question here from Mario as we welcome everybody back into PHNX Suns. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Says quick trivia without looking it up. Who has the highest free throw percentage on the Suns right now? My guess is Colin.
I was looking the other day, and it was Devin Booker, but I know he missed 2 the other night, and I don't know if that shifted anything.
I was going to guess Devin. OG says, so Iguodala.
Yes.
I wish.
Yeah,
If he was. I lean towards Colin because of the recent stretch from Devin. Last time I checked, I think it was Devin, though.
Ooh, Grayson Allen, also a good call.
Especially
I don't think Grayson.
Mario said hint regardless of attempts.
CJ Huntley.
Amir Coffee.
But then, yeah, it might be Amir Coffee.
Amir Coffee. Let us know the actual answer in there, Mario. Let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers, who are currently a half a game back from the Los Angeles Clippers for the 8th seed. And these two teams play each other twice over the last 9 games of the regular season. So those will probably determine who the Suns play. So keep your eyes out on that. The Trailblazers are 37-37 with a 1-2 record against the Suns. Obviously, you look at All-Star Denny Avdia, but recently Donovan Clingan has been a very big name to monitor, literally, with the Portland Trailblazers. He has had quite a year for himself and presents some unique matchup problems with the Suns. Gil, is this maybe sneaky a worse matchup for the Suns, especially if Mark Williams doesn't play?
I think when you talk about the big man situation and Donovan Clingan, and you kind of got to throw away the last time these two teams played because the Suns had nobody, but the Blazers have given this team fits. And I think back to the national television game in Portland from a few weeks ago when the Trailblazers could not miss. And it seemed like the Suns' game plan was, look, this is not a three-point shooting team. We'll dare you to do it, and eventually things will balance out and even out. They did, but it was a game that the Suns had to sweat out. So I think about the Trailblazers' youth. I think about the defensive players that they have on the perimeter. They have the ability to fill it up. They have a guy who can get to the free throw line maybe a little too much in Denny Avdia. And they do have the recipe or formula for a team that, not in the way that, you talk about a Kawhi Leonard or Steph Curry, just have one guy just kind of step up. But I think that over the course of a 48-minute game in a Game 7 type situation, it feels like a bunch of chapters in a game. And I think that one chapter could be the Kamar chapter. It could be a Clingan chapter, an Avdia chapter, a Shaedon Sharpe chapter if he's back on the floor and healthy. Drew Holiday's another guy who they have on that court. So they are scary in that sense, especially because they've kind of just been sneaky throughout the year. Nobody's really been paying attention to them.
You offended an entire country saying that the Blazers don't have a star, Eric. Denny Avdia.
I didn't say they didn't have a star. I said they have All-Star Denny Avdia. I'm just saying.
Earlier in the show. Okay. But when you look at Donovan Clingan, since January 1st, he's first in total rebounds, first in offensive rebounds, second in double-doubles, and second in blocks in the NBA.
Good.
That ain't good for a team that's struggling with their big men. Mm-hmm. Even with Mark Williams, that when we make the assumption, okay, even if he's 95%, that's going to be a difficult matchup. This team's going to have to clean up their rebounding if they're in this one-game situation. And you talk size, Jeremy Grant, 6'8", Toumani Camara, 6'8", Donovan Clingan, 7'3", Denny Avdia, 6'9", Drew Holiday, 6'4". It's a big team. It's a backcourt that is big. It's a team that can rebound. These are things that have given the Suns fits, and it will be a difficult matchup. Now, I would still lean Clippers as the tougher one to me because the Kawhi factor comes into play. Anybody that has probably the best superstar on the court at any given time is always going to be a scary prospect. And as much as I love Devin, the way Kawhi's playing right now, it's Kawhi and then slightly under him, Devin Booker. This is another tough one. This is not like the play-ins of the past. This is some heavy hitters that you're gonna have to face.
Yeah. First thing I think about with Portland is pressure. So no team picks up in the backcourt more than Portland. No team is as impactful in the numbers that they have to do so. And it doesn't waver whether it's the last 5 minutes of the game or the first 15 seconds. Sometimes even after the jump ball. They know they're losing it. It's rare because Clingan's usually the one that's jumping and he's usually winning that possession. But on a rare instance that he loses it, they're just picking up immediately. And those extended pickup points, what do? That's the way it helps the Suns and the ways that they use it. Portland weaponizes it even more. It's like, this is a non-negotiable. We're doing this for the duration of the game. Shaedon Sharpe, not the best defender, very good athlete. He'll do it. Chris Murray, not the best defender. He'll do it. Obviously, you have guys that are good defenders. Jeremy Grant's okay. He extends it at times. Drew Holiday for sure. Blake Wesley, the Suns haven't really seen him yet this season. He's a guy that's key to that for them. Matisse Thybulle, another guy that the Suns haven't really seen. He's another guy that gets that done. Like, they have waves of numbers. And then they have a guy in Denny Avdia that's more than just a guy. He goes and gets the job done. He's a guy that can close for you. If you leave a game in limbo and you're playing your turn, my turn, and let's just see who can score last, that's something that could not work in your favor potentially because of the ways in which they go about doing it and then you still got to deal with the big man in the middle.
Well, you talk about not playing some players. Well, Denny Avdia's played 20 minutes against the Suns this season over 3 games. Obviously, in that last game, he only played 1 minute. The Trailblazers won that one, but in the 2 wins for the Suns, they did a pretty good job. He's played 30 minutes, right? He played 29 minutes in the first game against the Suns. The Suns did a pretty good job on him. 19 points, 7 of 17 from the field, 2 of 6 from deep. Only 4 free throws for Denny Avdia.
That's key
in that game. Now that is by far and away your best game against Portland this season, and that was back when the Suns were 9-6, right? So that's pretty early in it. But they didn't have Jeremy Grant or Drew Holiday or Scoot Henderson at that point in the season. You fast forward to the second game where you won 130 to.
I don't think Thibault played either.
Huh?
I don't think Thibault played either.
He wasn't a DNP.
I think he might have been unavailable.
Yeah, he might have just been unavailable. But you now fast forward to the 130 to 125 victory over the Portland Trailblazers. Denny Avdia did not play with a strained lower back. Neither did Chris Murray. Neither did Matisse Thybulle. And that took a really incredible Colin Gillespie game, 30 points, 10 assists, and 8 3-pointers for you to win by 5. Right now, those were the 2 9 p.m. games, so those were, weird tip-off times. And the final game that you lost and only scored 77 points, Denny only played a minute. So you're facing a team that, you're 2-1 against them, but I don't think it's the 2-1 that you are going to be facing in the play-in where, you're going to get Avdia. He's going to be playing through whatever back issues he has going on. Drew Holiday is, again, we talk about vets who have been there and who have won. Like, that's going to be tough. So I would say, honestly, if I'm choosing between these 2 teams, which team I'd rather play less, I think I'd rather play Portland less than the Suns because I do feel like they can push at a couple of things that the Clippers can't. And while Kawhi is the scariest player, I do think that there are more players that I'm scared of on the Trailblazers than I would be on the Clippers.
Boom shakalaka. The Suns have their version of it in the masked man, Jordan Goodwin.
That's a great point. I was thinking about the Trailblazers too, and we talked. I got to give them a shout out. We talked about the Clippers turn their season around. The Trailblazers come into the season and find out they're not going to be playing for the head coach they thought they were playing for, and the fact that they
wouldn't have bet on that, would you?
Man, I try to keep my poker face, but I can't. I had to laugh at that.
That they better play poker face when they introduce them here. They better, damn it. Anyway,
got to do that,
sorry,
right?
Go
ahead. But to think about that and the fact that this team, a young team at that, was able to just get behind a voice that's been in their locker room, but a guy who's never been a head coach before in the NBA, and find ways to win. I don't think anybody expected them to be in these conversations at this part of the season. I think that they have rebuilt in a very interesting way. The bigs on their roster that they have, the fact that they drafted another big who's not ready yet, but they're doing that and building a specific way. There is a vision that they have in Portland. And I think the result with that is the fact that they have a number of guys who on any given night can beat you. And I think that, we talk about teams and their youth and inexperience and not being in those spots. Well, on the flip side, there's some teams who are just too young to even care. To even think about the fact that, this is a big moment. We're going to be back here down the stretch. This is fine. This is just a part of our pattern to get to being a top 6 seed, to get to being a perennial contender once again in the Western Conference. So I think that's the scary part about this Trailblazers team, like the not giving a what, in this circumstance because they're in the situation.
Any final thoughts on Portland?
Very, very, very underrated. I don't know if I was talking to y'all or I was talking to Shane Young, but Portland was a team I had in my top 6 for the West. Now, obviously, health has been as far from on their side as any team in the league. So that derails a lot of that. That makes them a sleeper now because you look at their record, you look at what your team did against that team over the course of the season, you think light work in some capacity. And that could not be any further from the case because that's a headache of a team to have to try to game plan against.
Yeah, I am not as afraid of them as I am the Clippers, in part because I think they're about a year away from being a scary team. Yep. This feels like the kind of thing that maybe you play them and you win, and it's their learning experience where you've got the experience. Really, Drew Holiday's the biggest experience on their roster, and you've got guys that have played a lot of playoff minutes.
Jeremy Grant,
Dame Dollar coming back next season. That fixes everything.
That'll very much. So,
hey, NBA 3-point champion.
Yeah,
on
one leg.
3 times.
Yeah. So we'll see, but Clippers still scare me more.
Yeah, if it's star power, then it's the Clippers. I think if it's just the overall team, then it's the Trailblazers. Not that the Trailblazers don't have an all-star, because they do, but I'm much more scared of Kawhi in just a takeover mode than Denny, which, I mean, we talk about free throws being the Suns' weakness. Like, when it gets to the play-in or playoffs, sometimes the whistle can get, little less likely out there when it comes to physical play. So that
Except
might
against the Suns.
except maybe against the Suns.
Like,
But
Denny has a style of play that forces a whistle to be called.
that is true. Yeah, he just runs straight into you. Let's talk about a team that's least likely for the Suns to play in the first round of the play-in. However, if they do drop that first game to either the Clippers or the Trailblazers, they'll have another home game against a team with the most playoff experience that we've talked about so far today. Steph Curry is coming back soon, and those Golden State Warriors, they're still in the play-in. We'll talk about them on the other side of this. During the play-in, tensions might be high, and whether you're celebrating afterwards or trying to forget, make sure you're involving Pure Edibles. Founded in Arizona and also found in Arizona dispensaries all across the state, Pure Edibles are not like your other gummies. Not just because they don't taste like weed, which is fantastic, they just taste like candy, but also because they tell you exactly how you're going to feel. No more indica, sativa, hybrid, no. While they use those things, they tell you exactly how you're going to feel. Relaxed, uplifted, sleepy, all labeled directly on the tin so there's no surprises. They blend CBN, CBG, CBD, and marijuana-derived THC to give you the exact experience that you want. Plus, they're designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable and easy to dial in your exact dose. I've talked to a lot of people about edibles. I think the first question I get is, well, is it going to make me anxious? Am I going to be taking too much? Well, with Pure Edibles, they solve all those worries because you can start low and go slow with Pure Edibles. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
Gil, you were kind of introduced to Brandon Bills when you got out here, and honestly, I'm addicted to hats. I think you've learned that since you've been here, but I find the Brandon Bills hats to be some of the best in the business. Has that been your experience since you
agree.
got to know? I do. This is, yeah. It's not the breathable one, but it's nice. And you know what? You're going to love them too, especially if you have a company that needs some custom-made hats. We use them for our custom-made PHNX hats that you can buy, and they are fantastic. And if you need them, you can get them as well from Branded Bills. And they have a partnership with over 40 universities, including ASU, U of A, and I believe GCU as well, and Wake Forest, where Gil went. Plus, you can get snapbacks, truckers, fitted, beanies, buckets as well, and tees. Brandon Bills has you covered. So head to brandonbills.com and use the promo code BBPHNX. That's BBPHNX for 15% off your first order.
Let's talk about legends of the game. Let's talk about some of the best to ever do it. Let's talk about Brandon Podziemski.
Yep, that's
and
right.
the Golden State Warriors. AA Ron, we'll get to your super chat here at the end of the show, but first, let's talk about AARP, the Golden State Warriors. Overall record 35-38, under 500 here, and their record against the Suns is actually the best record out of any of the teams that we've talked about so far today at 3-1. Now, that overall record, once again, we talk about sleepers, probably will not be indicative of the team playing in the play-in because all signs are pointing at a potential Steph Curry return this week.
If you were coming off a loss in game one of the play-in and you have to turn around and your consolation prize and that that's coming out of that other side is Steph Curry, Draymond Green, you're not. That's just ridiculous. That's what you're going to have to face. And Steve Kerr potentially in his swan song and maybe his last coaching with the Warriors. You have more healthy talent, more talent that's played this season, but that experience in one game, that is not what you want to face. Those guys know how to get it done.
It's been a nightmarish season, I will say, for the Warriors, as evidenced by their record. Jimmy Butler goes down for the season for a season-ending injury. Moses Moody get well soon. That was bad to see. But two guys who start and are a big part of what they do, unavailable, but still. I think about Steph Curry. I think about whatever it was in the finals in Boston when he had 43 points, and that was a very much a career-defining moment for him. I think about that game 7 in Sacramento And even at 37 or 38, however old Steph is now, in a one-off situation, off the momentum of a win over whoever it is they play in the first game, and then like I could see them kind of being, because they're going to have to travel from wherever they are because they're probably going to be the 10th seed as the way things are looking right now. That's just scary, because both of those games I explained with Steph Curry were on the road. We talk about villains. He is a villain. He leans into that so much, and he gets fuel off of that. When you talk about scary, like, I'm petrified of that.
Go look at the Olympics. You want one game to win something.
Right.
Well, and this is a team out of all of them that they have had the Suns number all year. Even the one win the Suns picked up was by 1 point. If you remember, Jordan Goodwin was fouled on a rebounding attempt at the end of the game, goes to the line and puts the Suns ahead for a 99-98 victory. But the last time that these two teams played, their last game of the season, the Warriors won 101-97. And it was Pat Spencer scoring a career-high 20 points. Gui Santos added 18, and the Warriors erased a 14-point deficit in the fourth quarter to beat the Suns 101-97. That was without, of course, Steph Curry. This is a team that over the last decade has really had the Suns number. And I think the scariest part is if you end up playing them in that second game, they just won a game, right? So they're going to have that momentum. Now, big question marks as well. I don't want to act like this is a juggernaut. This is the only team that is multiple games under 500 that we're talking about here in the play. And obviously, they've had a lot of problems with health. And I think that as much as you like to say, oh, we can assume they're going to be fully healthy, you don't know. Steph has runner's knee. Right? We don't know how Steph is going to look when he gets back. Yeah. He's missed a lot longer of a period of time than you expected. Draymond Green defensively is still a very good instinctual player, but athletically his body is starting to decline. And offensively, if Steph's not out there, you start to ask yourself, like, what is Draymond contributing? And then we know that Kristaps Porzingis you might wake up tomorrow and he might not play. Right. So there are a lot of questions about kind of the overall health of this team going into a play-in situation. But if they are fully healthy, they have the most playoff experience, because a name that isn't the Steph Curry and the Draymond Greens is Al Horford, who's an NBA champion in his own right and somebody who's played a whole lot of playoff games. So, yeah, it's a scary team with a scary coach.
Yeah, these two teams are kind of like the Spider-Man meme when it comes to injuries. It's like, oh, you too. All right. Hey. But I'm only concerned if Steph has shooter's knee, because if he's going to come out, he'll find a way, especially – if it's a handful of games in terms of winning 2 play-in games, Steph will attempt to find a way. And if they don't have Steph, they're not winning the first game. Anyways, I don't think you'll see them in this situation. But they are, of the 3 teams, the easiest, I think. But it's also, if those guys find the Wayback Machine for a 24-hour period and put on one of their traditional kind of performances, all bets are off. You'll just have to crank up the club music and drive Steve Kerr insane. So
I don't see an easy way out of the play-in.
No,
I'll be quite frank with that. I think each and every one of these teams, though the Suns have advantages over each and every one of those 3, there's also things that each team can bring to the fold that'll make you think over the course of a game. Gil, you said chapters. No team has more chronicles in this last 10 to 15 years than the Golden State Warriors.
Yep.
And oftentimes they end up on the right side of history as far as that goes. And with that in mind, haven't talked about DeAnthony Melton, how he's played for them over the last 2 to 3 weeks of play. We haven't talked about Gary Payton II. That's not a player that, oh my God, he's going to wreck a game. But defensively, and obviously, honestly, even offensively, if you look at Jordan Goodwin and you enjoy his season as much as I have, that's what Gary Payton's been doing. Gary Payton II has been doing for the last 5 years at least. Mm-hmm. He adds value in meaningful moments for that team. I'll take a trip back down memory lane. Let's look at last year's playoffs. Yes, the Suns were not involved, but you know who was involved? Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. Who did they go against in the first round? A Jerry Stackhouse-led defense with a lot of the guys that are in the rotation now having now a season's worth of defensive continuity to add to everything that he wants to do button-wise in a playoff-style situation. Those same things that Jalen Green had to go up against, two to the ball in the ways that the Warriors kind of schematically baked it into their process, that's not going anywhere. Devin Booker still has things he's going to have to answer against a team like that defensively on that stage in particular. That's not going to be a cakewalk. And on the other side of the ball, the Suns' biggest bugaboo defensively, been saying it all season, has been off-ball defense. There is not a better off-ball basketball player in the history of the game than Steph and Curry. And there hasn't been a better synergy guy to understand how to give him the ball than his head coach and Steve Kerr and Draymond Green. Now, you want to deal with that in a one-off situation, you're going to be on the island because I can't help you on that one. I got no life rafts to throw you. You got to figure that maze out. But that's going to be there's no easy way out of these play-in. And I think that's what makes it fun for me to look at for the Suns because it's going to challenge them in ways that is going to give them more clarity going to whatever the next step is, whether that be the offseason and planning forward or a potential next round with a team like the Spurs or the Thunder.
It's also what makes it so damn frustrating that they didn't take advantage of the opportunity that the rest of these Western Conference teams provided them over the last few weeks, because you could have prevented yourself from having to face these guys, any of these combination of these three teams. But now you've put yourself squarely in that situation, back up against the wall in each of those games if you wind up in both. So you did it to yourself. Now you got to figure out how to win.
And one of the times you did it to yourself was that loss to this Warriors team when you were up. And now, and, you know, we talk about all the contenders for worst loss of the season. That is right up there as well because, and I think I say that not just to harp on that game specifically, but the Warriors were at such a talent disadvantage in that game. And you had them down 14. You were up double digits in the fourth quarter. We've heard that before. But the fact that it was those guys, it was Pat Spencer, it was Guy Santos, that and Al Horford also, those three guys, the three guys you would least expect to beat you. And I think that speaks to the types of guys in that locker room and the leadership and the belief that they have to play outside of themselves, whether they're too old or not good enough to do something. They're still doing it. The other time, the game in Golden State, the second game when there was a home and home that felt like a playoff series, it was Will Richard that came off the bench, who was a guy who played for a national championship last year at Florida. And now he's here. He is, one, too young to care, but also knows exactly what it's like to play in a win and you're in situation. All things, you know, it's for all the marbles type deal. So that when I immediately think about the Warriors, I think about, okay, they're not going to have enough talent. They're injured. They're missing two key guys to season-ending injuries. But wait, this Warriors team has had guys, their depth guys have stepped up to beat you already this season. And then you have Steph Curry at the front of it all, and you have Draymond Green as well. That makes it a pretty scary prospect.
And I know we make fun of pods, and I think it's very funny. Like, I think it's a lot of the times it's earned.
Who is we?
He'll have
that we too frugly for me.
He'll have
crazy though.
He'll have games.
ISO.
He'll have games. Like the second game that the Suns played against him. They won by 1. The Suns did, but Pods had 18 points on 8-11 shooting, 2 of 3 from deep. So I can almost see it now being frustrated at, oh my God, Pods is hitting another shot, right? Because you're worried about everything else. And if they are fully healthy, then it's going to give him a lot of space to operate with, because he has been higher up in the food chain for them with Steph Curry out. And
you heard what he said earlier this week, right? They asked him, what has he learned most about himself when Steph has been out? I belong.
Yeah.
I was going to say that he had that quote, and then he had the famous tweet of the screenshot of him and Luka together with the thinking emoji.
About that one.
And then he had something else where he was trying to put his hat in for Team USA move forward. So
he's a funny guy.
He's
a funny guy.
He has got the irrational level of confidence that it takes 100%. To get where he is.
Hey, you gotta love that. There's a long history of the irrational confidence guys in the NBA. Vernon Maxwell made a hell of a living out of being the irrational confidence guy.
So Brandon Podziemski is still out there.
Yeah, why not?
Any final thoughts on the Any final thoughts on the Warriors before we wrap things up here?
Mad Pods.
Oh my God. I would say too though, you talk about the old guys, Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, throw Quentin Post, he's a younger guy, but those are three bigs that can viably space the floor. Spacing the floor, what that does for your defense and the help decisions and the subsequent decisions that have to come after, that's a lot to deal with, again, in a one-off situation. So keep that thing in mind when you're on Twitter saying that the Suns will make light work of whoever they plan to play in.
All this got me excited. I'm talking about this because I don't care if it's one game back against the wall. You didn't have this last year.
Basketball.
And this, I missed it. I missed the juice, the excitement of anything can happen, any situation. Even if you win, you wind up against the Spurs. I'm not going to say OKC, but you wind up against the Spurs. The hope that, hey, we won this one. Now we can go take 4 more, and we'll be into the second round. Like there's an energy about it that you don't get at other times in basketball. The second you get into this back half, once the calendar turns to April, it's go time, and we're almost there.
And to your point, I worry less about like how they perform in the play-in, just because I feel like if they can get to the next round, which is the actual playoffs, I think they give either one of those two teams more of a run for their money than anybody else would. Yes, other teams have Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard, all of that stuff. That's awesome, but comprehensively as a team, we've heard what coaches and players have said about the Suns. That's something that goes into factor when you're looking at them against a specific team. And I'm very intrigued by Jordan Knott and company's ability to game plan against one singular specific opponent. No back-to-backs. You don't have to worry about variance and guys being in and out of the lineup. It's your strength versus our strength, game plan versus game plan. Check ball.
Yeah, it's the chess match.
Sure.
It's not speed checkers, it's chess, and it's go time.
It's postseason basketball, and that's all you ask for is an opportunity to play in the postseason because everything's in front of you. Anything can happen, and I think that there are Clippers and Trailblazers and Warriors fans out there who can have the same kind of conversations about the issues. That's probably saying exactly the same issues that this Suns team poses them. If this Suns team gets healthy, how are you going to deal with the guys on this Suns team? And one last thing I will say about the play-in tournament and the playoffs. Listen, the Rockets have a 99.5% chance of finishing in the top 6. They had a 99.7% chance of winning last night. And they lost. So, there you go. So you never know.
Hey, bad vibes can sink a lot of things.
There you go.
Sorry for trying to pull up the super chat on here so I could read it because I have terrible eyesight. Thanks to the ad for auto playing there. AA Ron with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, AA Ron. Says, what are the odds of signing a free agent center?
Right now?
Low.
It wouldn't matter.
No, I'm assuming you mean in the offseason. I think you figure out what you're doing with Mark Williams, and that will determine whether or not you're going to be targeting a center in free agency.
And if you do mean right now, it has to be somebody that was released before March 1st for them to be playoff eligible, which just happens every now and then. I think PJ Tucker signed with the team like the last week of the season, but he did that to be a locker room guy. So it has to be somebody like Tristan Thompson or something. And I don't think this.
I don't think that
playoff experience, baby.
Qualify as a locker room guy.
I don't think they'll go down that route.
Hey, we need one other guy that has a Kardashian connection. We got anybody? No.
All the names I could have said. Dang.
Hey, Chris Humphries is out there. So
He is.
Chris, Tristan.
He's got size.
Come on in.
Yeah.
You asked.
Tomorrow.
Ben Simmons still available too?
Also a guy with size.
Free agent centers the Suns can sign for their playoff run coming tomorrow. No, tomorrow we're going to take a look at some of the teams the Suns could face if they do, and hopefully when they do get out of the play-in. We're going to talk about OKC. We're going to talk about San Antonio. And, man, these Lakers are playing really, really well as well, which is unfortunate. So we'll be talking about those top three.
OG wants Lamar Odom.
Hey.
And I want to wrap things up before we get to more Kardashian connections. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. Shout out to the Freckled Mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. You can follow
Bad Bunny on the 10-day.
At Freckled Mamba. You can follow Steven at Steven PG3. That's Steven with a PH because he balances us out. You can follow Espo at Espo. Catch him on Southwest Bias every weekday morning. You can follow Gil at GilMcGregor_. You can follow me at ERIK_RUBY. We'll talk to you all tomorrow to talk about some playoffs.
Oh,
We all silly like the mayor.